Hey everybody, Teresa here from Inspiration Cards, and welcome to our third Stamp Jammies online card class using the Quite Curvy stamp set. We only have one more card after this week, so let's get to today's card.
So here's our card for this week, and what you'll need for this one in your package you should have is a piece of crumb cake cardstock for the card base, one nice big piece of the Forever Greenery Designer Series paper, and then 2 pieces of basic white cardstock. So one's a little bit bigger to fit on the inside, and then of course we've got a bit of a smaller piece here for our phrase on the outside. And then we've got a little bit of linen thread, one of my favorite go-tos when I'm crafting. And of course, a couple more of our In Good Taste wood elements. So to start off, I'm just gonna quickly fold my crumb cake card base and just grab my bone folder to get that nice crisp fold. Here we go. So I can set that aside. And then from here, I'm just gonna take the larger piece of basic white, and this is going to go on the inside of our card. And just like we've done with previous cards, we're going to add a little birdie friend, just a little something on the inside to pull some of the colors and other design elements onto the inside of the card as well. So there's our bird there. And this guy's going to get stamped with Just Jade. For this project, we're also going to be using some crumb cake ink. So if you don't have crumb cake ink, if you just have a lighter shade of brown ink, that should work just fine. And he's just going to go right down in our corner like that. There we go. And let's give that a quick close so I don't end up with my fingers in it. And I'm going to set that aside to dry and grab our other piece of basic white cardstock. And so on this piece here, I'm just going to swap out our little birdie friend for the small little leafy branch that's part of this cute little set. So there we go. And again with my Just Jade. So just going to create a little bit of an accent at the top and bottom of the basic white cardstock. Just going to flip that around and give my cardstock a little spin. And again, 1 and 2. There we go. And from here, we're going to pull out our Thinking of You Makes My Day. So generally, as you can tell, oops, that's actually the wrong one. There we go. So as you can tell, generally speaking, this is actually a curved sentiment, but just like with the card last week, what you're going to do when you attach it to your block is you're just going to do it a little slower and a little more intentionally so you can straighten it out. So just like that. And then this way you can use these phrases in a lot more different ways. You don't always want your phrase to go on a curve. So this way you still have that ability to switch it up a bit. All right, and just to make sure that I don't accidentally get any extra ink on my cardstock, I've just got a little bit of scrap paper that I'm just gonna have just to cover the edge. Even though I'm inking up just the Thinking of You for this first part, even with a good clean, sometimes a little bit of residue sticks around. So I'm just going to line this up here and then slide in my piece of scrap paper, and that's just going to go right there. So a little closer to the top. And then, of course, we need the other half of the sentiment, the makes my day. So again, just going to ink up the half that I want. Just switch my scrap piece of paper over onto this side here. Give that a nice little flip. And just line that up underneath. Just like that. There we go. And we're going to add one more little bird to our card. So this is a different one than what we stamped on the inside of our card. So I'm just going to stick him on there. And now put our Just Jade ink away. So I'm going to use, this is where we're going to use our crumb cake ink. So if you don't have crumb cake, you can just use a lighter brown, or if you really wanted, you could actually just stamp him in the Just Jade as well. That's really up to you. So just gonna make sure he's nice and inked, and then just put him in the center of that spot on the bottom. So there we go. So there's our little friend. I'm going to just switch that off to the side so it can dry for a minute. And then we can get to assembling our pieces. All right, so here's our crumb cake card base that we folded in half earlier, and the larger piece of basic white with our little friend. So I'm just going to grab my Stamp and Seal, put a little bit of adhesive on the back. So whether you have Stamp and Seal or whatever tape runner or adhesive you like to use, just put a little bit on the back. I find with the Stamp and Seal, I really just have to kind of get the corners. With other adhesives, I feel like I have to cover almost the whole piece of cardstock. So I'm definitely enjoying the Stamp and Seal. All right, so there we go. So there's the inside of our card. So still lots of room to leave a phrase. Now I'm going to grab our piece of Forever Greenery Designer Series paper and our linen thread. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap this around a couple of times. So you want to leave enough that you'll be able to tie a bow once you get this wrapped around. So once and twice. And you want it about the middle. Doesn't have to be exactly in the middle, because you're going to add we're going to add our wood elements in just a moment. And you might want those a little more centered than the twine. So there we go. So just going to tie my, going to shift actually my thread a little bit here. There we go. Just need a little bit more on this one end. There we go. And if you like to use a bit of adhesive to keep things in place while you're tying the bow, then feel free to do that. I'm going to give this a go without, and we'll just see how that works today. I find the mini glue dots work really nicely if you need a little something just to keep your ribbon or thread in place. Or sometimes what I'll do is I'll just ask one of my munchkins to hold their finger right where I need my bow to go. All right. So just a simple bow, nothing fancy. Just going to give that a little adjustment before I give it a final pull. There we go. So there's our linen thread. And so just going to add Stamp and Seal in the back. I'm just going to add a little bit extra just on either side of the linen thread, just to help keep that particular piece of the cardstock down. There we go. And that's just going to go, there we go, on your crumb cake card base. And then we've got our Thinking of You and our In Good Taste elements. So to add the In Good Taste elements, I'm just going to grab my multi-purpose glue here. And so just going to add a little bit on the back. There we go. You don't have to cover all of it, but just enough to hold it in place. And that's going to go just behind our bow here. There we go. And then here's our other piece. And again, don't need to cover the whole thing, just enough. Plus, if you don't cover the whole thing, then you don't end up with white glue on your fingers, which is always a nice bonus. There we go. And to finish it off, we're just going to add a couple of dimensionals to the back of our phrase here. And I'm just going to peel those off the back. And that's just going to go right here next to our bow and our wooden elements. So there's this week's card. I'm going to show you one more sample using the Quite Curvy bundle. So this one here is a birthday card. So in this case, I actually used Blackberry Bliss, and a piece of basic white cardstock is just behind this piece of designer series paper. And this piece of designer series paper is in the current Celebration catalog. This is from the Oh So Ombre pack of paper. And I just used one of the dies from the bundle, and that split the piece of designer series paper just like you see it, and also added the design here. And then of course I stamped our phrase just above where the curve happens, and the leafy viney image kind of fills in that space in between. And then of course on the bottom I had to add a little bit of bling and added a few rhinestone basic jewels. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the cards.
I hope you liked this week's card, and I'll see you next week for our final card using this cute stamp set. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, just send me an email at inkspirationwiththeresa@gmail.com. And you can check out some of my other projects on my blog at inkspirationcards.com. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon.